Welcome back to the DCPU, where no one likes a show off.
Unless what they're showing off is dope as fuck.
Fuck! That's true. I'm Frank, back once again with my co-host Thomas to examine DC's follow-up to Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad.
So first, let's start off with history of the project and details of the release. In a Variety article from March 2016, which is before the first film even released, it was reported that David Ayer and Will Smith were expected to return for a Suicide Squad sequel. Filming was planned for 2017 after the pair finished their film Bright for Netflix. Which, researching this, I learned that Bright was a Max Landis spec script. Gross. Now, is he the one with the helicopter, or was that his dad?
That was his dad.
Okay, he's just the
Yeah, he's just an alleged
What a good family line they have there. Karen Fukuhara also expressed her interest in returning to flesh out Katana's character in a sequel film, which didn't happen.
Yeah, no. I mean, it would have been nice to see her again.
In April 2016, Ayer said the first film had been planned with a PG-13 rating in mind from the beginning, but he believed that it might be worth it to lobby for an R rating on the sequel, as he felt the first already had the edge and attitude of an R-rated film. Clearly this is before the movie came out, and he's trying to hype it up. But do we think that the movie ended up having the edge and attitude of an R-rated film?
I think the first movie had the amount of edge and attitude as a hot topic. Some of that is not his fault, but either way, no, I don't think it needed to be rated R.
Yeah, I don't think that the film had the edge and attitude of an R-rated film, and I think that if they had done that, it would have been like reshoots, and then it just would have been a bunch of random swears added in.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, we talked about it in Birds of Prey, but like, if you just cut out the F-bombs, that movie didn't need to be rated R either, so. I do think this film earns its R rating, which we'll talk about.
Oh yeah.
We'll talk about that.
In December 2016, The Hollywood Reporter released an article saying that Ayer and Robbie would be reteaming for an all-female Gotham City Sirens film. This article also mentions that a Suicide Squad project was still in production, but that this new Sirens film was being fast-tracked due to the popularity of Harley Quinn. And as a note, Gotham City Sirens was never made. But since David Ayer's plate was full with the new Gotham City Sirens film, he stepped aside from directing the Suicide Squad sequel, which meant that a director search was underway.
In February 2017, names started appearing on the shortlist for the sequel, with Mel Gibson being the frontrunner. Mel Gibson is a fascinating choice, to say the least. While I think he's an incredibly talented filmmaker, he's also had a lot of controversies in the past, which included blatant homophobia, anti-Semitism, racism, domestic violence, and DUIs. The one thing I will say, not to defend Mel Gibson, but at least he's not a sex pest. We've already talked about at least one or two sex pests throughout the series so far, and when it comes to Hollywood, we find out that there are more and more of them every day. I'm confident in saying he's not a sex pest because it's not exactly hard to come out against Mel Gibson at this point. Like, if he had done anything, I don't think anybody would be scared to speak up about him. All of this stuff had basically led to him being blacklisted from Hollywood for about a decade until 2016 when he directed and released Hacksaw Ridge, which garnered rave reviews. I think Hacksaw Ridge is an excellent movie. But anyway, at that point, I guess it was good enough for Warner Brothers to look into hiring him for the job, although I don't think he would be a great fit for this.
I do think it's kind of funny that he made one good movie and then they were like, okay, he's back. Fuck it.
Other names that were being thrown around included Ruben Fletcher, Zombieland, Gangster Squad, Venom, Daniel Espinosa, Safe House, Morbius, and Jonathan Levine, 50-50, Warm Bodies, The Night Before.
Doesn't this seem like kind of a strange group of directors? I feel like none of them really feel right for the role.
Yeah, I don't know. It's...
However, Morbius, I mean.
Right. Venom and Morbius, I mean... Got some superhero names here. No, I agree. I also don't know who I would pick. Like, other than James Gunn, the obvious choice, because that's who they were kind of trying to emulate in the first place, in some regards.
I think it really depends on, like, the script, because if they didn't do a comedy, then maybe it'd be different.
That's true, yeah. In March 2017, Adam Kassad was attached to write the script for the film, which was now described as a top priority for Warner Brothers. Kassad's writing credits include Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, The Legend of Tarzan, and Underwater.
I'd like to know how many projects they had in development that were a top priority.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I feel like we've seen that phrase thrown around a lot.
Didn't they just say that the Gotham City Sirens was like top priority, and now the Suicide Squad sequel's top priority? In early July 2017, as script delays pushed back the filming to mid-2018, Mel Gibson moved on from the project. At which point, Jaume Collet Serra became the frontrunner to direct. Collet Serra is best known for his films House of Wax, Orphan, Unknown, Nonstop, Run All Night, and The Shallows. He also directed Carry On in 2024, which is funny because I've been getting that mixed up with Mel Gibson's Flight Risk, going all the way back to the Birds of Prey episode when you and Jesse were talking about it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that he made that movie. I thought it was okay. I don't know why you guys are making fun of it, but completely different movies. Anyways, at the same time, it was reported that Warner Brothers received a new treatment for the film from writer Zach Penn, and that a new script would be written. And Zach Penn might have one of the most impressive resumes of anyone we've talked about on the podcast yet, with credits from Last Action Hero to Men in Black, Behind Enemy Lines, X-Men 2, X-Men The Last Stand, The Incredible Hulk, The Avengers, and Ready Player One. And, Frank, you'll like this, he even has a surprise story consultant credit on Ants.
Oh, of course he does.
Ants comes back.
What do you need a story consultant credit for on Ants?
I don't know.
I mean, it's a big resume. There's definitely some stinkers in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Ready Player One's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Everybody hates X-Men 3. The Incredible Hulk's also not a good movie, from what people say. I haven't watched it since I was like 10 years old, so...
I never said they were good movies. It's just a lot of big name movies.
Absolutely. It makes sense that they would bring a guy like this on board. He's got a lot of experience writing blockbusters. But unfortunately for Warner Brothers, just when they thought they were on the precipice of pre-production, they hit another roadblock. At the end of July, less than a month after being announced as the director, Collet Serra withdrew from the project in order to direct Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, in Disney's Jungle Cruise, citing his desire to originate a new story as opposed to continuing an existing franchise. Once again, Warner Brothers had to search for a director. And while Collet Serra left the project, it won't be the last time we hear of him, as he'll reunite with Dwayne Johnson for Black Adam later in the series.
I just think it's really funny that he's like, I'd love to tell a new story as opposed to continue his existing franchise, and then comes on for Black Adam.
Well, not only that, but it's not like Jungle Cruise is the most original fucking idea ever. It's based off a ride, and also just the premise of it is like 50 other movies.
I think he just wanted that Disney money.
Yeah, for sure. He just wants the Disney money. Not that I'm shitting on him for that, like, get your bag. And also, I haven't seen Jungle Cruise, so maybe it was a great movie. I have no idea. In August 2017, it was reported that Jared Leto was expected to come back for the sequel, which never happened.
But Joker is not even in Suicide Squad comics, so I don't know what their fascination is with putting him in these movies, besides Harley being there.
Well, it's the Joker, baby! He's like one of the most popular characters. He got his own solo movie that made $1 billion. People love the Joker. People love Harley. You gotta stick them in shit because they make money.
It's like, fuck, we can't make a Batman movie because Ben Affleck left. I guess we'll just throw Joker in random projects.
Exactly. And Justin Kroll of Variety also tweeted that the production had been pushed back once more to fall 2018 at the earliest because of conflicts with Will Smith's schedule, as he had to film both Aladdin and Gemini Man.
I was reading the replies to this tweet. Some of the replies were really funny, with responses ranging from probably for the best to good, we need Man of Steel too, Green Lantern and Cyborg movies first. And one person was even saying, where'd you hear this from? The think tank for clickbait articles? Like Justin Kroll isn't one of like the leading voices in the entertainment news space.
I don't know, man. Can you really trust Variety? That no-name site?
I don't know.
I do like the representation from the freaks we talked about last week. We need Man of Steel 2, Green Lantern, Cyborg, Ben Affleck's Batman. We need all this.
Folks were really clamoring for a Cyborg movie.
Yeah. I mean, the people writing these comments hadn't seen the Snyder Cut yet, so they're still imagining the completely forgettable character who was in the movie for like 10 minutes.
I want to see more of him. I hope he says booyah every line. In September, it seemed that Warner Brothers had finally found their director for the film in Gavin O'Connor, who came in and pitched his vision for the film. He would also co-write the film with his writing partner, Anthony Tambakis. Gavin O'Connor is best known for his work on Pride and Glory, Warrior, Jane Got a Gun, and The Accountant, which starred Ben Affleck, who, as we know from this series, is also Batman. And an interesting little factoid I also found. Before Ben Affleck and Gavin O'Connor became involved in The Accountant, Mel Gibson tried to direct the film with Will Smith in the lead role. The old Warner Brothers regime wasn't interested in working with Gibson, though. It's just neat to see how the paths of these four people intertwine here.
Yeah, it's fun.
Really makes you think. The project was pretty radio silent, until June 2018, when it was announced that David Barkatz and Todd Stashwick were helping O'Connor co-write the film. Todd Stashwick has essentially no writing credits, and David Barkatz did some stuff with John Leguizamo in the 90s.
Oh, no.
John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo. Oh.
I remember seeing these people's names, and they didn't fucking do anything, so I just left them out.
I looked it up. I'm like, what have they done? And I looked it up, and he had done like a comedy special and like a series in 1995 with John Leguizamo, and then fucking nothing for 20 years. And then he did some show on Netflix or something.
Not the duo that we would bring in to rewrite an expensive blockbuster.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were just talking about Zach Penn. That is a name that makes sense. That's a guy who's worked on big stuff that made money. I don't understand why they bring in all these fucking no-names for all these projects, like the fucking Wishbone people. Like, come on, just get fucking serious.
It was a really good comedy special, though. By September 2018, a draft for the film had been completed, so filming had to start soon, right? Well, not exactly, because O'Connor left the film in October 2018, choosing to focus on The Way Back, which was a film with Ben Affleck. There were rumors that he became frustrated when the story for the sequel ended up being almost identical to the Birds of Prey story, and that he became frustrated that it was given the go-ahead first. Which I don't believe this in the slightest, especially considering that we've done the Birds of Prey episode and know the story for it. I cannot imagine a Suicide Squad movie and Birds of Prey being similar in the slightest.
Yeah, I don't buy that either. But luckily, we don't have to speculate. While promoting The Accountant 2 last year, O'Connor spilled the beans on why he left the project in an interview with Collider. He said that the experience was another example of the dysfunction in the film industry, that he was 3/4 of the way through the screenplay, which would focus on Deadshot and his daughter Zoe, when the regime change at Warner Media resulted in all the executives he was working with being replaced. The new president, Walter Hamada, introduced himself and asked to read the script, after which O'Connor basically said, "We're almost done, you can read it in a few weeks when we're finished." And upon giving Hamada the completed script, Hamada turned around and asked O'Connor to make the film a comedy, which wasn't what he had agreed upon.
And this sounds much more in line than the reports of it being too close to the plot of Birds of Prey. I feel like Warner Brothers just tried to spin the story in their favor, and O'Connor just didn't care enough to push back against it, or couldn't due to an NDA.
Sure. I mean, was Hamada part of the problem at DC? Ray Fisher said he was. I don't know how many other people besides O'Connor and Ray Fisher have beef with Hamada, but the fans certainly don't like him, as we learned last week.
I think it's just an overall consequence of all these different executive swaps and all these different people coming in and trying to push their own vision for the DCEU.
Yeah, there's no coherency. Although unconfirmed, other aspects of O'Connor's script included Black Adam potentially being in the villain role, and the return of Joe... Why would you do this to me? Joe Manganiello, and the return of Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke to face off against Will Smith's Deadshot. Also, since he's never going to come up again, we can note now that there was at one time a Deathstroke solo film in development with Gareth Edwards. Unfortunately, regime changes killed the movie, as they didn't think anybody would want to see a $40 million budget Deathstroke movie.
It's just such a low budget to me after hearing some of these other budgets that I cannot understand why they wouldn't make this.
This is the guy who made Godzilla and Rogue One. I don't know. I think people liked those movies, right? They made a lot of money, crowd pleasers, they looked great. He made that movie The Creator recently, which looked amazing for having such a small budget. I think for a measly $40 million, this could have been good, and it's just another example of DC films shooting themselves in the foot. And I would also like to point out that we just talked about a movie that wasted $70 million on a fucking director's cut.
Maybe even more.
This is less than half of what it cost to make the fucking director's cut in the last episode. It's absurd looking at it from two ways. One, that they had spent so much money on last week's subject, and two, that they wouldn't be willing to shell out this money for a solo project that probably could have made them hundreds of millions of dollars.
Especially because I cannot imagine that a Deathstroke movie would need that much CGI, and it would just be like very combat focused, so just good stunt work.
Yeah, it's just ninjas and shit. Like, it's easy. It's action. It's just physical action. They seem to be allergic to making money. What else would you expect from them at this point?
It could make that money back in like the opening weekend.
Absolutely.
Just really weird choice. I feel like they were just like trying to pivot away so much from the previous stuff, and they're like, no, we just won't make that. Let's make a $265 million Black Adam movie instead.
We'll get there. We're so close to getting there.
And while all this was happening at Warner Brothers, a major controversy was happening over at Disney with one of their brightest Marvel talents. In July 2018, James Gunn would be fired as director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 after conservative personalities found old tweets of his with edgy and controversial jokes about things like pedophilia and rape. Of note, Gunn had also been an outspoken critic of President Donald Trump. And no surprise the Republicans were pissed about pedophilia and rape jokes. They're projecting.
Yeah.
In a statement released by Walt Disney Studios chairman Alan Horn, he said, "The offensive attitudes and statements discovered on James's Twitter feed are indefensible and inconsistent with our studio's values, and we have severed our business relationship with him." It's not like their founder was an anti-Semite.
Yeah, exactly.
Gunn issued a statement after the announcement saying, "My words of nearly a decade ago were, at the time, totally failed and unfortunate efforts to be provocative. I've regretted them for many years since. Not just because they were stupid and wildly offensive, but also because they don't reflect the person I am today, or have been for some time. Regardless of how much time has passed, I understand and accept the business decisions taken today. Even these many years later, I take full responsibility for the way I conducted myself then. To everybody inside my industry and beyond, I again offer my deepest apologies. Love to all." And Gunn received an outpouring of support from the industry, with the entire Guardians of the Galaxy cast writing a joint letter calling for his reinstatement, with Bautista going as far to say he would quit the franchise if James Gunn's script wasn't used for the third film.
He's got balls. I think Gunn handled this extremely well. Like, very professional.
Oh, yeah.
And it paid off, which we're about to talk about. But you know how great you have to be to work with for the entire cast of your movie to stand in solidarity like that?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Especially because all this stuff was 10 years ago?
Oh, yeah. No, this was definitely brought up in bad faith. These are just conservative chuds that were pissed off that this popular director was mocking their guy, and so they were just trying to dig up whatever the fuck they could to get him in trouble. And the executives, they just are scared of everything. So they see the shit that's over 10 years old, who gives a shit, edgy jokes, and they panic at the first sight of it because they don't want it catching fire and spreading across the internet. Especially because Disney is such a family brand. But Disney's firing of Gunn was to Warner Brothers' advantage. More than they would realize at the time, which we'll see at the end of the series, but in the moment, it was a big win for DC Films. Because on October 9, 2018, it was announced that James Gunn had been hired to write and likely direct the Suicide Squad sequel. Later, in 2021, Gunn would go on to reveal that DC initially offered him a Superman movie, but Gunn was unsure. And so, as an alternative, the studio offered him the chance of a lifetime. They let him choose anybody he wanted out of the DC catalog to make a project about. Gunn chose to make another Suicide Squad movie, which makes sense. I think that plays into his strengths.
That's an absolute crazy offer, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyone out of the whole catalog. They really had faith in him. I mean, for good reason, but it's just crazy.
Oh yeah, the guy was proven. Those Guardians movies, they made money, and not only did they make money, they made money out of nobodies. Those were not established characters that had household appeal. Disney would later go on to hire Gunn back only a single day after he signed on to make The Suicide Squad, which allowed him to make this film first before returning to finish the Guardians trilogy. What an epic win for those conservative chuds, huh? The fact that, they tried to get Gunn canceled in bad faith, and it resulted in him getting to make 2 movies and more in the future. This was probably the best thing that ever happened to Gunn's career, at least since he got hired to do Guardians in the first place.
And it really, at least in my eyes, puts, a negative look on Disney as a whole because, they make a whole big deal of firing him. And then one day after he's announced to write and direct a movie for their biggest competitor, they walk back with their tail between their legs and are like, please make a movie.
Yeah.
Why did you fire him in the first place then?
Yeah, exactly.
Just stupid.
It's not about morals, it's about optics. They just don't want to look bad. But, nobody on the internet fell for it. Everybody loves James Gunn. Everybody loves the Guardians movies. He's got the support of the cast and the audience behind him. So nobody took the bait except Alan Horn and the fucking executives who shit their pants at the first sign of controversy.
And they paid for it dearly.
Oh, yeah. Because I think the plan after the Guardians trilogy was that Gunn was supposed to kind of oversee the entire cosmic wing of the Marvel movie franchise. I'm not sure how true that is either. This isn't a podcast about the MCU, so we're not going to verify and fact check that. But if the franchise is going to expand and get wider, it makes sense to delegate some of it so it's not all on Kevin Feige, which is, I think, one of the problems they have today.
I'd also say it's probably likely because have they made that many movies in space in the MCU since? I don't think so.
Nope. I'm thinking the Marvels, and that's it. I don't think they've made any other cosmic MCU movies. Fantastic Four, maybe? It's kind of half cosmic, half Earth. And on January 30th, 2019, Gunn's film was given its title, The Suicide Squad, and a release date of August 6th, 2021. Gunn had initially thrown the title out there sarcastically as a joke, but when the executives at Warner Brothers heard it, they liked it so much they decided to keep it. It's a fucking terrible title.
I think it kind of works as a joke, though. Like, I don't know, because the first one's like Suicide Squad, this one, The Suicide Squad. It just kind of fits the tone of the movie to me.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but even Gunn didn't want it to be the title.
What did he say he wanted it to be?
I think he wanted it to just be called Task Force X, which I don't think is as good of a title as Suicide Squad.
No.
It is a cool name, but not as catchy.
They should have called it the Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Lean into that fan-four-stick energy.
James Gunn would pick out a bunch of D-list characters for his treatment of the film, and in an interview after the film's release, he elaborated on this choice, saying, "Seriously, I would look up who are considered the dumbest supervillains of all time on Google, and at the top of every list was Polka Dot Man. I wanted to take this character and give him a soul. We think he's like the dumbest character of all time, who is made fun of at the beginning of the movie by the other dumb supervillains who think he's dumb. Yet he has this incredibly dark backstory. It was just about giving us this guy who was the typical loser, and we get to see him on his journey." While Gunn felt the first film left some things to be desired, he was a big fan of Ayer's casting decisions. In early 2019, it was confirmed that Margot Robbie, Viola Davis, Joel Kinnaman,
Not again. We can't have this conversation again.
Joel Kinnaman, and Jai Courtney would all return as their characters from the first film. Will Smith was also planning to return as Deadshot, but like we discussed earlier, his schedule was too busy. Instead, Gunn had Idris Elba in mind as a replacement. By April, the creative team had changed their minds regarding Elba's role, deciding to have him play a different character. This was done out of respect for Smith, leaving the door open for him to return to the Deadshot character in the future if he so wished. Gunn would eventually decide on the character of Bloodsport for Elba, saying, "The truth is, I wrote this role for Idris Elba, not knowing what character from the comics I was going to use. And there were lots of times of using different characters, including a made-up character. So what I did instead was I took one of the characters I liked from the comics, by the name of Bloodsport. In the comics, his ability is to pull weaponry out of thin air, and the way we interpret that in the film is he has a costume that is covered with all these different gadgets that he uses. All this weaponry that are these transformed pieces of weaponry, and that he has this sort of creepy xenomorph-looking skull helmet, which I liked a lot."
It's pretty nice of them to leave the role of Deadshot open for Will Smith to come back.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him back. I liked him as Deadshot.
And Lord knows now his career could use it.
Hashtag restore Deadshot to the DCEU, or DCU.
Why not? I mean, there's no reason why he couldn't. There's no reason. The character of Peacemaker was originally written with Gunn's Marvel collaborator Dave Bautista in mind, but he was busy filming Zack Snyder's first film at Netflix after the whole debacle from last week's episode, Army of the Dead. John Cena would end up getting the role after this, based on Gunn's love for his performance in Amy Schumer's film Trainwreck. Bautista would have been great. I mean, he always is. But it feels like this character was made for Cena. Even Bautista admits after seeing the film that he wouldn't have been as good. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I agree. I can't really see Bautista in this role, especially because I feel like the way he's played is very, like, I mean, as we find out in the show after, he's like very like white, conservative, grown, and like Bautista just doesn't give those vibes really.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he literally couldn't give those vibes. I still would have liked to see him in the DCEU, and I mean, the door is open, right?
Oh, I'm sure Bautista's gonna get some role in the DCU going forward. I just don't know what. Maybe he could be Hugo Strange.
I was just thinking Hugo Strange. That would actually be fucking awesome. Thomas, you need to watch Blade Runner 2049. In that movie, I can kind of feel a little Hugo Strange. Principal photography for the film began on December 20th, 2019 at Pinewood Atlanta Studios and lasted for 3 months before moving to Panama for a month, ending in Portugal on February 28th, 2020. Literally right before the lockdown started, which was pretty lucky on their part.
Very lucky.
Fun bit of trivia is that while they were in Panama, a lot of the cast and crew were rescuing animals off the streets, which is really interesting. I've never heard of that on a film set before.
It seems to fit with what I know, because from what I know about James Gunn, he really loves animals.
Yeah. While listening to the Peacemaker podcast, I remember hearing that they actually shut down production because James Gunn's dog had died. And so they shut down production for a couple days while he flew home to like say goodbye to his dog before they put it down, which is crazy. Because again, you're shutting down an entire film set for one guy to go home and visit his dog. Like, that is a tremendous amount of goodwill from the studio to spend that much money, because film sets are expensive, especially if you're going to be shooting on location.
I mean, it's great that the studio did it. It is crazy also, but I'm glad that he was able to do that, because I'm sure it was millions of dollars a day.
Exactly. It's very nice of them. A great way to make him feel like sticking around, make him feel happy working at Warner Brothers. And, if the people on set got paid, shit, I don't care. Good for them. And according to Gunn, the film also marked the construction of the largest sets ever built for Warner Brothers, with a set the size of 3 football fields built for the final battle, and an even bigger set constructed for the artificial beach at the beginning, complete with a palm tree forest and real waves.
That's crazy.
It is insane to think about. Gunn said that it was actually more cost efficient to do this than it would be to film on a real beach, thanks to not having to worry about changing tides, availability on the beach, daylight, and I think he knows what he's talking about. I mean, he got his start working at Troma, which was a production company where you would have shoestring budgets and you really had to stretch that money. And it would later be revealed that the film would come in under budget and required 0 additional photography, which is phenomenal. Like, for anybody who doesn't know the movie business, studios adore directors who don't go over budget. If you come in under budget and you don't have to waste time doing additional photography later, they love you. They will happily give you more work.
I think part of it is because he actually, well, first of all, his script is usually locked before he shoots, and also he storyboards literally every shot of the movie.
Yes, yeah, I remember reading that too. I didn't put it in the doc, but I do remember reading he had done extensive storyboarding, which, yeah, that definitely helps. I mean, again, for anybody who doesn't know the movie business, if you have your completed script and you have everything storyboarded, you waste less time on set, which means less money. And at this point, Warner Brothers would move the release date up a single day, premiering on August 5th instead of August 6th. I don't know what the significance is. They moved it from a Friday to a Thursday. I looked up the day in history. There wasn't anything crazy going on. Well, aside from the usual. COVID, wildfires, the new hell that we live in every single day.
I think from what I read, it was to get preview screenings on Thursdays or something. I'm not really sure why they did this, but I mean, whatever. Open one day earlier.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of a difference it could make, but, it's not my job to figure that out.
And now we'll move on to the state of movies, DC, and the characters at the project's release. Other movies coming out around the same time as the Suicide Squad included Black Widow, Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins, Jungle Cruise, The Green Knight, Free Guy, Don't Breathe 2, Paw Patrol the Movie, Candyman, and Shang-Chi. This is actually quite a decent amount of movies for an early August release date, at least in my mind. I don't know if it's normal or not. This just seems like a lot of big movies. Usually they save them for like fall or July, I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of feels, well, I mean, blockbuster as a term was invented by Jaws and the success of that movie. So summer releases are typically what I think of for these big movies. But, also I think it's just the fact that people are starting to feel comfortable going back to the theaters again. So the studios are comfortable dropping more of their movies in theaters again instead of delaying them.
And some of these could even just be like ones that were delayed and we're just waiting to release.
Yeah, like Black Widow was definitely delayed.
As far as superhero movies go, the Suicide Squad had the whole month of August to itself, as Black Widow released in July and Shang-Chi premiered in September. Around this time, we also had the merger with Discovery. On May 17th, 2021, AT&T had announced a plan to merge with Discovery Inc. This was yet another mass media television conglomerate known for the Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, TLC, Food Network, HGTV, and the Travel Channel, amongst so many others. The new company, Warner Bros. Discovery, would be led by Discovery's CEO, David Zaslav, and we'll have updates to follow on this in the next 2 episodes as it gets approved in various countries/regions. This one never made sense to me, this merger.
Yeah, I never imagined that Discovery had the clout and the amount of money to combine with Warner Brothers and AT&T, but it happened. Not as quickly as we make it seem here. Over the next couple episodes, it'll get approved by more and more countries. It just never stops, man. It never stops.
Didn't Discovery have a fuck ton of debt too that Warner Brothers took on?
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I think Warner Brothers was also in some kind of debt, but it's I don't know how a company that's in debt can buy another company and then saddle the company they bought with the debt. I don't know. It's all fucking fairy dust. The economy is not real. None of this makes any sense. Don't try to think about it too hard. But I'm just so sick of the fucking corporate mergers. This year also marked the return of DC Fandom, and with this year's convention, there were 66 million global viewers, 3 times as many as last year's event. We got a first look at Matt Reeves' film, The Batman, teasers for Black Adam and The Flash, a look at the games Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Gotham Knights, and a trailer for a little show called Peacemaker. However, this would be the last DC Fandom, despite the success of the event. A quote from the corporation after the merger would say, "With the return of in-person events, Warner Bros. Discovery is excited to be able to engage with our fans live at numerous Comic-Cons around the world and will not be scheduling DC Fandom for 2022. So I suppose the Discovery merger is also responsible for the death of this very successful event that everybody loved and didn't seem to cost too much money."
In the comics, there was an event going on called Fear State, which was a story involving Scarecrow wanting to control Gotham City using fear. Shocker.
Yeah.
And Mayor Christopher Nakano's mission to protect the city with a deal with the Magistrate. And it was supposed to be a somewhat tie-in to the Future State event, as the Magistrate was in that too, which we talked about last episode, so I'm not going to go over that much. But the series introduced Jace Fox as Batman. Not even his own character, just Batman.
Who the hell is Jace Fox?
It's like Lucius Fox's son.
Oh!
He was supposed to be the one that was taking over in the 5G initiative, and then they scrapped it, and then they still introduced him anyways, and now he's just Batman in New York City. Not a different costume, literally same costume, the only difference is he has like black over his mouth, so he has no mouth hole.
Well, that makes sense.
I would have just cut the character, but whatever.
Yeah, or just make him like, I don't know. There's too many people in the Bat family. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion.
No, it's not. They also already have, I'm pretty sure, one of the other Fox kids is Batwing.
That's who I was thinking of. Yeah, I was thinking of Batwing when you had mentioned Lucius's kid.
There was also a Suicide Squad relaunch. In March, the Suicide Squad series was relaunched, and made to have some sense of synergy between the series and the film. The cast included Peacemaker, Superboy, Nocturna, Bloodsport, Ambush Bug, Talon, Culebra, Captain Boomerang, and, of course, Harley Quinn, among others. There's also a plotline around the time released of Rick Flag making his own Task Force X to oppose Waller's, as she wanted to take over Earth 3, which, for comic fans, is known as the home of the Crime Syndicate, an Earth where heroes and villains' roles are reversed. And if you're wondering why Superboy was on the Suicide Squad, it was a clone.
Oh, my favorite.
A clone of a clone.
Oh, I hate clones in comics. Don't get me started. In 2021, DC also brought back the Milestone imprint, starting with Milestone Returns Infinite Edition number 0, which would be spun out into Static, Icon and Rocket, and Hardware, all 6-issue miniseries that would premiere digitally first. However, it looks like the line wasn't popular and hasn't gained too much traction, with only a few of them occurring every few years. I'd love to see a Static Shock movie.
It's crazy because Static Shock was like one of the most popular shows when I was a kid.
Yeah, same. I love that show.
It feels like they never capitalized on that because they like try to bring him back and then he never sticks somehow.
I'd love for him to get his own movie, but if they're not willing to go that far with it, just put him in another movie. He's a great character, people love him, and you're right, they totally failed to capitalize on his popularity. This year also marked the debut of the DC Horror imprint. In 2021, editor Katie Kubert founded a DC imprint called DC Horror, which released limited comic series and one-shots that are obviously in the horror genre. Generally rated M for mature, 18+. Is that a thing with comics? M for mature?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought that was just for video games.
There's like general, and then teen, and then M.
And the books also featured some surprising crossovers. The imprint doesn't release books that often, but at least a few every year. There's some surprising talent behind the books, which would include Bruce Campbell, who would write Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. David Desmalchin wrote a Creature Commandos limited series. Patton Oswalt wrote a story for DC Horror Presents number 4, their anthology series of horror stories. And there was also a DC Conjuring book, The Conjuring the Lover, which acted as a prequel comic to The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, also known as Conjuring 3. I really like this idea. I'm fully supportive of DC and Marvel and all these other companies publishing and pushing books that aren't superhero stuff, which obviously some of this is, but still, it's nice to see other genres get the spotlight for once.
Horror seems like underdone, usually, and they're actually giving it the platform to actually like be mature.
Yeah.
And not have to be toned down.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too, is that they have the 18+ rating, which I'm sure helps them do whatever shit they want to get away with. And in the world of DC animation, There was the Batman The Long Halloween adaptation, parts 1 and 2, releasing in June and July. There was also an animated adaptation of Injustice, which would take elements from both the game and the prequel comic series, ultimately telling an original narrative which diverges from the source material. For example, Flash is killed in the opening sequence by a Joker trap that cuts his head off. If you've played the game, you know that Flash plays a very important role throughout the game's story. Not quite sure what the point was in combining these and taking some liberties, but whatever.
So stupid. I remember that came out, everyone was like, Flash dies in the first scene? What do you mean?
Not only that, but he dies to a Joker trap? Come on.
It's literally just like a razor wire, and he gets distracted and runs through it, and then his head gets chopped off.
Jesus.
It's not like he can, phase through objects or anything.
Yeah.
But now we've made it to plot synopsis and discussion. Amanda Waller assembles 2 Task Force X teams, colloquially
Colloquially.
Amanda Waller assembles 2 Task Force X teams, known as the Suicide Squad, which are sent to the South American island nation of Carte Maltese after an anti-American regime overthrows its government. Upon making landfall, the Carte Maltese military slaughters most of the first team and captures Harley Quinn, while team leader Rick Flag escapes. Well, first things first, I was very disappointed that the film opened with Johnny Cash instead of Skrillex and Rick Ross. I really missed Purple Lamborghini.
Yeah, I was also missing Purple Lamborghini. Imagine Dragons too. I was really looking forward to hearing them again. I will say I do think James Gunn could have cooled it with the needle drops a little bit. It's not nearly as bad as the first Suicide Squad movie, and I do think a lot of the song choices are better, but he kind of overdoes it a little bit for me.
I agree. There was times where I was just thinking, why does there need to really be music for this?
Yeah, it's almost like he's uncomfortable letting things sit in silence.
I would have rather just had the score sometimes.
Yes, me too.
I really liked how the intro of this covered the idea of the Suicide Squad in basically like a minute and a half.
Oh, it was beautiful. I loved how truncated the introduction was. Not just to the premise, but also to the new team. I mean, it really gets you into the action fast.
It was kind of funny because that first scene with Savant, where he kills the bird, I was like, this makes him feel eviler than any of the villains from the first movie.
Yeah.
Killing just an innocent little bird.
Just killing a bird for no fucking reason. Yeah, I mean, we had that complaint back in episode 3 of the show that they weren't bad people. At least not on screen demonstrated to be bad people. So, yeah, right off the bat, we see that these are real fucking scuzzballs, real pieces of shit. I like the part where we see a glimpse into the life of the Task Force X employees and how they're gambling on the survival odds of the team members. That was great.
Yeah, it's really funny. They're just casually betting on who's gonna die. It's really fucked up.
So fucked up, yeah.
But they're probably desensitized to it, so...
If they cared in the first place. I mean, these are people who work for Waller. They cannot be stable individuals.
That's very true. We already did bring this up in the Birds of Prey episode, but I think it's worth talking about again. It's a little disappointing to have Harley Quinn show up with little to no explanation of why she's there, considering how Birds of Prey ends.
Yeah, it is a little disappointing. I do like her in this movie a lot, and I do think Gunn wasn't trying to get in anyone's way, because she, spoiler, does come out of the movie alive. So if somebody wanted to follow up Birds of Prey, this could just be a little detour for her character that wouldn't really play into things. I mean, she doesn't really change throughout the film. She's pretty much the same. So it's not as if this movie prevents her character from doing anything. It doesn't, lock her into something. But if you were a Harley Quinn fan and you're going into this expecting some kind of follow-up, yeah, you don't get anything.
I did like, though, that they had sort of a little bit of camaraderie between Boomerang, Harley, and Flag, which you can infer that they've gone on multiple missions together over the years.
Yeah, they feel like actual, at least co-workers, maybe even friends, which is better than you could say for the relationships in the first movie. They don't feel like friends. They don't even feel like co-workers. They feel like complete strangers who are often like talking past each other, it feels like. And you're right, that does help that they've, you can infer that they've gone on so many missions together. But if you recall back in episode 3 of our show, I said I think the movie would have been better if Deadshot was coming into an already established team, where they already had the camaraderie And this is kind of that right now. Like, Savant is being brought into a team that already exists. You know, rotating membership notwithstanding, but
there's at least some veterans on the team.
Yeah, there's some regular cast members here on this sitcom known as Task Force X. And speaking of Captain Boomerang and Harley, I think the banter is so much better than the first movie. Like, we already know that David Ayer said that this was supposed to be a darker, more soulful film. Not this one, but I mean his movie. But, you know, the studio tried to put in more quips and shit. They tried to recut it and make it more snappy. But you could tell that Gunn's skills as a writer are really coming through here. There are some genuine belly laughs from the conversations in this movie.
The whole, like, first team that dies, there's so much comedy even when they're all, like, horrifically dying. It's like horrifying but also hilarious at the same time. Like, he goes, TDK, go, and he's standing there, he's like moving around, but his arms are just smacking people and they're just shooting his arms.
Yeah. No, I love it. The opening set piece still blows me away. Like, when I saw it in theaters back when the movie came out, I was in awe because it just works in every way at the same time. Like, for one thing, it's beautifully shot. Like, the composition and the lighting and the special effects, they all look great. The action is exciting, and I think the scene works dramatically and comedically. Like, it is very funny. There's lots of funny moments, but also you are seeing all these people get cut down, including some characters from the first movie. You're not expecting any of these people to die so soon. And it's nearly a complete team wipe, and it is a great subversion. It's very clever.
We get to see how gory this movie's gonna be.
Oh, yeah.
Right from the get-go, when Blackguard's face just explodes.
Gone. It's just gone. Yeah, when Pete Davidson's head explodes, I was just like, okay, we're stepping up. Like, this movie's already earned its R rating less than 10 minutes into the film. And it's only gonna get grosser from there, and I love it. I love every second of that. I also think that this is probably Harley's, well, maybe not her best look, but it's my favorite look. We talked about it in Birds of Prey. You know, she's got great costumes in that movie. I really like the red and black. I like the red and black. I like the jumpsuit from the animated series. We only saw a glimpse of it in David Ayer's movie. And in Birds of Prey, they ditched the look completely. But this is pretty good. I like this, like, motorcycle leather outfit she's got. Gunn is on the record saying he was inspired by Arkham City for this look, which is great.
Oh.
It actually looks better than her look in Arkham City. It's less sexualized than Arkham City, but it's still got the color scheme, and it just looks great.
Yeah, I liked this one much better than the one she wore the rest of the film, so I was a little sad that it went away so fast after, like, the first scene, basically.
Yeah.
Would you have liked to see a whole movie about Team 1?
I mean, if it was by Gunn, I think it would be good. I think he could swing it. But there are a lot of fucking losers on that team, for sure.
When they're on the helicopter, and then he's like, what kind of dog is this? He's like, I think it's an Afghan hound. He goes, I thought it was a werewolf. He's like, what the fuck? I'm sitting next to a werewolf. Get me out of here.
Yeah. I just...
So stupid.
They're so stupid.
But so funny.
Because of course they are. Like, your average criminal is not a mastermind. The only difference between most of these people and guys robbing convenience stores are the fact that they have superpowers, or they just have some crazy tech. I had a question about the makeup of Team 1. Are you familiar with everybody on Team 1 in the comics? There's one in particular I had a question.
Mongal?
Yes. I wanted to ask about Mongal. Somebody told me she is Mongol's daughter.
Yeah.
Which has crazy implications for, like, the cosmic side of the DCEU, right? That Mongol's daughter is on Earth, and she somehow got arrested and then murdered as part of the Suicide Squad. Because that means War World and shit exists, right? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a really crazy choice to have her in it, but it's also, like, really funny that there's just outer space, like, warlord's daughter just on the team, and then she dies in a helicopter crash. No big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's great world building to just not even bring attention to the fact that, oh yeah, we've just got some aliens on the team too. Good stuff. And also, her death was fucking hilarious. One of the best deaths in the opening montage.
And then goes, Mongal, no, and then she leaps onto it, causes the death of, like, 3 other members.
Yeah, including the death of Captain Boomerang, which I was genuinely shocked by. I didn't think they were going to kill a returning cast member so quickly. But I guess that is probably the best way to actually make the audience realize, oh shit, this isn't going to be what I thought it was.
It not only shows that, like, people can die on the squad by killing this whole, or almost the whole first squad, but then also by killing Boomerang, it does, like, oh, so maybe really no one is safe.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to say, is nobody is safe. Like, you think this guy is going to have plot armor because he's like one of the main guys from the first movie. And he's just fucking gone like that.
I think also the marketing leading up to it didn't really give away who lived and who died.
No, not at all. I remember even the trailers for this movie, they had like the big shot of them walking, you know, the wide shot with the American flag and stuff. And it's like they did not hint at the fact at all that over half of these characters that they had billed on the posters and shit would be murdered. Like all the trailers and all the build-up teased everybody from Team 1 as if they were going to be throughout the entire movie. It was a huge fucking cast, and I guess in retrospect it makes a lot of sense because it's not actually as big of a cast as it seems.
I think the final thing I'll say about this is it starts very like quickly paced with the teams like getting together on the helicopter, they land, they all get murdered, and I think that it helps really get into the movie before then. Right after this scene, it's like 3 days earlier, and then we kind of get the flashback of the second team that we find out about.
I like that. It kind of takes a breather once we get to Team 2. Elsewhere, the second team, led by Assassin Bloodsport, who Waller blackmailed in exchange for not sending his estranged daughter Tyla to prison, consisting of Peacemaker, King Shark, Polka Dot Man, Ratcatcher 2 and her pet rat Sebastian, enter the country undetected, revealing that the other team was a deliberate decoy. Waller orders the squad to find Flag, who's being held at a rebel base, and task them with destroying the Nazi-era laboratory Jotunheim, which houses the secret experiment Project Starfish. So we get our flashback to Team 2, and we get their trek through the jungle. I've only got one note here, which is I love the quote from Polka Dot Man. It still made me laugh out loud very hard. I don't like to kill people, but if I imagine them as my mom, it's easy.
That's such a good gag throughout the whole movie.
It is a really good gag, yeah.
I think the first time it happens, they're in the woods, right?
Yes.
And he like looks up at them. It made me laugh.
It never got old. It was great.
Because it wasn't overdone either.
No, I think, it was just that time, and then in the club for one shot, and then the one shot of Starro, yeah. I love Team 2.
I do too. I haven't seen this movie in a couple of years, so I was a little blurry on the specifics. But I was like, oh, it's kind of lame that they stole the father in prison, daughter not in prison dynamic from Deadshot in the first movie. But then they just start screaming and fighting, and they like hate each other, and it's the complete opposite. And I'm like, okay, that's a good switch up.
Yes. And then Waller threatening to send his daughter to prison, specifically to Belle Reve. That's not something that happened with Deadshot and his daughter. So reading it on paper, you might think that they're very similar, but yeah, totally different in the dynamics between those two.
I felt like throughout the movie there was a lot of things that I was seeing and drawing direct correlation to the previous movie, and I don't know if it's just because they're like kind of common ideas, or if maybe James had seen the first like we're on a first name basis. Or maybe if James had seen the first movie and was maybe half intentionally, half unintentionally trying to like one up it. Although I don't know if he's actually seen the movie or not. I think he might have had a quote saying he hadn't.
No, I think he's seen it. I think he's definitely seen it. I when I was pulling that casting article.
I mean, that's true because he liked the cast, so.
Yeah, there were parts of it he liked. He definitely watched it. And David Ayer does get a special thanks in the credits, too.
Oh, that's nice.
And I think David Ayer has gone on the record saying he enjoyed Gunn's movie as well. And we already know that Ayer has faith in Gunn and the new regime at Warner Brothers to release his original cut. So I don't think there's any bad blood between the two.
Maybe it'll be this year, 10-year anniversary of the movie.
Maybe. We'll see. I love Team 2. I love everybody. I love the introduction of Peacemaker. I love when Idris Elba's like, hold on a second. You're giving this guy the same introduction I got. What the fuck?
He's like, I do what you do, but better.
I was instantly sold on John Cena as Peacemaker. He has so much charisma. He's so funny. And later on in the movie, when he has his heel turn, I bought that too. He was actually kind of scary.
But then also you do kind of see throughout, there's like little bits where he actually seems pretty normal.
Yeah, he's just an asshole. I think Gunn described him as the world's biggest douchebag.
I really like when they're having the briefing, he's taking notes, and then she's like questions, he goes, starfish is slang for butthole. Could there be any connection?
Yeah, that was good. If we're going to talk about the scene where they're taking notes, we have to talk about King Shark. Hand! Yes, that is a hand. Very good.
Sylvester Stallone does a really good, like, stupid voice.
Well, yeah, I mean, have you heard the guy talk? No, Stallone is a great fucking casting choice. He was written for the part. Gunn had envisioned Stallone specifically, but actually he was afraid that he wasn't going to be able to get him. But when he asked, Stallone agreed. No, I love King Shark.
I will say, I think that throughout the movie, King Shark might be like one of the best looking fully CGI characters I've seen in a movie.
He looks very fucking good. Yeah, so good. When he's getting shot with bullets and you just see the rippling effect on his skin as they bounce off him. I noticed, like, at the end in Jotunheim, when he has wounds, like, some of the bullets do, like, pierce the wound a little bit that already exists, that's open, but they have the detail that, like, the ones that haven't penetrated his flesh just bounce right off. Yeah, he looks fucking phenomenal.
I noticed one shot where they're, later in the film, when they're in the car and they're driving through, and they do a close-up through, like, the window of him, you can see each individual little itty-bitty, like, scale on, or, like, piece of skin on his nose, and I was like, wow, that is very impressive.
Yeah. And I mean, this movie didn't have a small budget by any means, but compared to like the Avengers movies or other big blockbuster CG movies where you have characters that are completely digital composites, it is impressive what they're pulling off here, because you got to figure most of the budget's not going to King Shark.
Throughout the whole movie, there wasn't a single shot where I was like, he doesn't look that great. You said that clearly he wasn't the majority of the budget, but I made a note near the end of the film, which I'll just bring it up now. But for some of the other movies in this series, I've said, I don't know where the budget goes. But for this one, I felt like I was actually like, okay, this is where the budget went, because there was a lot of effects, but they were really well done too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like we talked about it earlier, Gunn knows how to deliver on a fucking budget. You can see where the money's going because he planned the whole thing out ahead of time. You've got these big action set pieces, buildings being destroyed, jungles being bombed. You've got not just the CGI character throughout the entire movie, but the whole climax of the film is around a giant CGI monster. But yeah, you definitely see where the money's going, for sure.
I only have one more note for this section. This is about, like, I think half an hour in, and they're already out of Bellerive and on the mission. And it was just not even at 30 minutes, it was like 27 minutes in. And I thought that pacing was crazy, considering in the first film, they didn't even get on mission until like 40 minutes in.
Yeah, and that's after the studio fucked it up to try and make it snappier.
The team massacres the rebel soldiers, only to learn that the rebellion leader, Sol Soria, had saved Flag. Despite the group's actions, Soria agrees to help them infiltrate the capital, where they capture Project Starfish's lead scientist, the Thinker. Harley is taken to Corto Maltese's new dictator, Silvio Luna, who wishes to marry her. After learning of Luna's plans to use Project Starfish on political dissidents, Harley kills him and escapes. She joins the others, who use the Thinker to break into Jotunheim in exchange for sparing his life and begin rigging it with explosives.
This is like over an hour of the movie, and they just boiled it down to like 5 sentences. I told Thomas this before we started recording, but I don't have a lot of notes for this movie because there's just not a lot for me to say. I just adored every second of it. I guess right off the bat here, I think it was another great subversion to have Flag and the rebels working together instead of having them get like tortured or something.
Especially once they start killing them all in like super crazy ways, and Bloodsport and Peacemaker are basically having like a kill-off.
There's the one guy who's just got his dick out for no reason, which is another example of this movie earning its R rating. The gore on all these kills, and also the guy with his dick flopping around as he gets murdered.
And then finding out they're the good guys, and they're like, oh fuck, we just like murdered them all.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, but also like shit, we just made the mission harder for ourselves. There's not a single scene in this movie that doesn't work for me, so if I broke things up by scene, my notes would feel really repetitive. So I'm just gonna say the whole movie works. Like, I think all the drama works, I think all the comedy works, I think all the relationship stuff between the characters worked really well.
I think the only thing I was iffy on in the movie was the Harley stuff with the dictator. Something about it just kind of brings things to a bit of a halt for me. It's not too long, but I did feel like it killed the momentum just a bit.
I enjoy all the Harley stuff because I like the character in these movies. I do agree that the Harley stuff feels somewhat disconnected from everything else, because for at least half the movie, Team 2 is kind of doing their own thing. They pick Flag up pretty early on, and, you know, they go out to the bar and they bond together, they do all this stuff together, and Harley doesn't join the picture until, what, like halfway through the movie at least? And I think she's good in this movie. I think I liked all of her scenes. I like the breakout. I like the stuff with the dictator guy. Great stuff, but you're right, it does feel kind of disconnected. I wouldn't say it really hurt the pacing for me, because her solo scenes don't eat up that much of the time, but it does feel completely removed from the action. Yeah. And I think the argument could be made that her killing him over how he's mentioning that he's going to kill children and other innocent people for disagreeing with his new regime, that could be her growing as a person from Birds of Prey. I think you could make that argument. I don't know if you could make that argument if Birds of Prey didn't exist. If you're just going from Suicide Squad 1 to 2, where she's still out with the Joker, she's not going to murder this guy for saying shit like that. She specifically mentions, hey, I'm trying to become a better person. I don't date evil guys anymore. And I think the healthiest way of dealing with that is by murdering them. So she's still Harley, but it's clear that she's grown as a person. So you could say that's because of Birds of Prey.
I think that's a good point that you make, that she might not have done that in the first movie. I could definitely, maybe see her doing it, but after Birds of Prey, definitely makes more sense. Her line of, killing kids is kind of a red flag. I'm like, yeah, kind of. Yeah, sure. Just kind of. There was also the squad in the bar waiting for the Thinker to come in, and they're bonding over this drinking, and I obviously had to draw parallels to the first movie, because the squad also bonds, if you can call it that, drinking in a bar. Yeah. But here it feels so much more natural.
Way more natural. You actually see them laughing, they get drunker, they have a good time together. You get to see Polka Dot Man open up, you get to see everybody open up. I mean, you see Bloodsport and Flag, laughing and shit together. Peacemaker and Ratcatcher are dancing. It's good stuff. It's the kind of relationship building the first movie did not have.
Oh yeah, the squad in this movie felt so much more connected. And even in the beginning bits, there's little pieces of even this patchwork squad that was all gonna get killed anyway working together a bit better than the first movie. Savant saves Weasel. Yeah. He could have just let him die.
Yeah, he could have just let him drown, for sure.
I gotta wonder though, what is James Gunn's beef with birds? Because first Savant killed a bird, and then the general kills all the birds in the cage on the roof. Why does he hate birds?
I didn't draw the connection between those two things. I thought the scene with the bird cage being lit on fire was very disturbing, and I had to wonder if any poor bastard at Warner Brothers needed to watch real birds being burned alive to research the Foley effects for that.
I hope not.
I hope not. I hope this isn't a NetherRealm situation.
I was literally just thinking about that. Explain to the audience.
So Warner Brothers related, so we're not, totally off topic here, but NetherRealm Studios, the people who make Mortal Kombat, supposedly there were a bunch of developers that got PTSD because they were having to research real-life pictures of gore so that they could program the insides of the Mortal Kombat characters, because they get cut apart in the fatalities and shit. I don't remember the details of that. I don't even remember how legit it was, but it's all I can think about anymore when I think of that studio.
I like to imagine that someone was just like, I really want to make sure this is right. And not that Ed Boon was like, I need you to go on Live Leak.
Yeah, right?
I only have one more thought about this section, and it's the fact that he chose Starro to be the villain. Yeah. Just a very interesting choice, considering he's usually a bigger threat. Because usually he's a Justice League threat. So it was kind of interesting to have him take on the squad. I don't know if maybe he was nerfed a bit.
The way I interpreted it was James Gunn is looking for the most ridiculous characters possible to make up the team, and he's probably looking for a villain that's just as ridiculous. And I think it just appealed to him that he could have a giant kaiju-sized starfish as the villain for the movie. He's probably nerfed. What do I know? I thought Starro was very cool. Yeah. Flag and Ratcatcher 2 enter the Thinker's laboratory and find Starro the Conqueror, a giant starfish-like alien that creates smaller versions of itself to kill people and control their bodies. The Thinker explains that Starro was brought to Earth by American astronauts, and that the US government was secretly funding experiments on it for decades, using Corto Maltesan citizens and political enemies of the prior dictatorship as test subjects, and also that said regime used starfish to strengthen its rule, and that now Waller had sent them to cover up American ties to the project. An enraged Flag decides to leak a hard drive containing evidence of this, but is killed by Peacemaker, who is under orders from Waller to ensure the cover-up. Meanwhile, a skirmish between the rest of the team and the military leads to Polka Dot Man accidentally setting off the explosives prematurely. As Jotunheim crumbles, the drive falls into Ratcatcher 2's possession. Peacemaker attempts to kill her before she can escape with it, but Bloodsport shoots him and takes it.
The whole Starro stuff in the lab was horrifying.
I loved it. Oh, it was so gross. It was so cool. Again, really earning that R rating. You get to see the guy with starfish peeled off his face, the guy who's just a torso and he's still alive, all these creepy body horror experiments. It was so awesome. And I love the reveal that it was a US government cover-up, and of course they were involved. The only part of this that I will say that didn't completely work for me, but it's such a minor thing that I'm willing to brush it off is that Rick Flag would want to leak it to the press. Because at this point, he's been working for Waller for years. And the Suicide Squad is an inherently unethical operation. Taking prisoners and using them to do your dirty work is not cool. And like even in the first movie, the operation that they're there to do is not completely above the board. And Rick Flag didn't seem to have a problem with it back then. I don't see why Rick Flag would be any different from Peacemaker in this scenario. I like Flag in this movie. I love Flag in this movie. Whereas in the first movie, I didn't give a shit about him either way. But to me, it just felt like for a government operative who's been doing this shady shit for years, it seems like the kind of thing he'd be totally fine with.
I think I agree. I mean, maybe you're supposed to take him working with the rebels as like a sign that he's changed because he tells them to like go attack them when they come to Jotunheim.
That's true, yeah. It's pretty brief though. That's a pretty brief scene.
Yeah, and I don't think that was telegraphed enough, or that he was shown to be anti-United States or anti-Waller throughout either of the two movies.
Yeah, and when I had first seen this movie, I had never watched the first one. So when I saw Flag, I knew he was a returning character from the first movie, but I was like completely rooting for him. And when he said, I'm gonna leak it to the press, I'm like, fuck yeah, Flag, that's awesome. But having watched this now, after watching the first movie for the show, it just seems out of character for this shithead government operative, you know, to be doing this. I mean, he's not completely heartless. I guess he cared about Deadshot and his daughter, you know, but it's not a big enough deal that it ruins the plot for me or anything like that. I still like Flag. I still think the rest of the movie works, but I think you could have maybe tweaked it a little bit so someone else was in his shoes. He could have still ended up dead or something.
It made me sad he died, though, because I really liked his character in this one.
I really did, too. And, you know, again, watching the first movie, didn't give a shit about him, but I really grew to like him. Right from the get-go, I think he's got more personality in this one. It was sad to see him die. It made me really fucking hate Peacemaker. And I loved Peacemaker's heel turn. I thought that was a great twist, but I didn't think he was going to kill Flag. I thought this was going to end the way these movies usually do, where Peacemaker gets killed and everybody else has a happily ever after. But no, he takes someone down with him.
And they kind of allude to the fact that something's up because he's like, oh, I'll go with you guys down there. And they're like, no, you stay there. And then he's looking at them as they go on the elevator, and then he's gone. So obviously, like, okay, maybe there's something a little funky with him. But before that, he just seemed like a normal member.
Well, normal by their standards. But, yeah. And it does, you know, pay off his motto, you know, keeping the peace no matter the cost. Covering up this conspiracy would theoretically keep the peace, but also keep the peace for who? We didn't talk about Ratcatcher yet. She's great. I like how she doesn't seem like a villain, really.
Yeah, because she's really not. She was just robbing a bank with the rats.
Stealing to eat, basically, to get off the streets. She's lived her whole life homeless with a fucking heroin addict father. That was also something I was curious about when the movie was coming out, is I saw Taika Waititi's name on the poster. I'm like, who the hell is he playing?
Was he actually on the poster?
Yeah, I think either in the poster or in like the big reveal where they had like the 50 names with all the people from Team 1.
Oh, okay.
And then watching the movie, I'm like, okay, he's not in Team 1, so where is this guy? I thought he was nice as her dad, though.
I did notice that it was like an hour and 17 minutes in when they got to Jotunheim. And there was like an hour of the movie left. So kind of crazy.
I never caught myself checking the runtime, but it is kind of wild how long the final act of the movie ends up being. There's like separate stages of it. You've got the confrontation between Peacemaker and Flag. You've got Peacemaker and Bloodsport, and then of course you've got everything with Starro. And it does go on for a while, but I found it all exciting. I thought it was paced really well. I don't know, no complaints, really.
I thought it was funny when they're doing the walk to the building. Peacemaker just has a fucking sword. I'm like, where the fuck did Peacemaker get a sword?
Yeah, he has an axe and a sword earlier on in the movie that he uses in the little contest with Bloodsport in the jungle. It's funny because I don't think we ever see him use that sword or axe in his series.
That's why it's so funny, because it's just out of nowhere, he's just using a sword. And I'm like, that's really funny.
It looked cool, though. I do like it. I like his Desert Eagle with the ridiculously long barrel. It's like 3 feet long.
And also the screw-on silencer.
Yes.
Starro escapes the destroyed Jotunheim, kills the Thinker, fuck that guy, and much of the military, and begins taking control of the island's population. Waller tells the squad that their mission is complete and orders them to leave. But Bloodsport leads the team in fighting Starro. Waller, wanting to keep the squad's secrecy from the public, attempts to execute them for this, but her subordinates knock her out. Polka Dot Man weakens Starro but is killed. Harley pierces a hole in Starro's eye, allowing Ratcatcher 2 to summon the city's rats to chew it to death from the inside. With the military diverted, Soria takes control of the government, promising democratic elections. Bloodsport blackmails Waller into releasing him and the surviving squad members, and dropping Tyla's charges in exchange for keeping the contents of the drive confidential. Waller reluctantly agrees, and the remaining squad members are airlifted out of Carte Maltese.
Yeah, that's the end of it. I love the fight with Starro. It felt exciting. We talked about this, I think, in the Suicide Squad episode. No, the original Suicide Squad 1. We talked about this where essentially one of my problems with it was that they had a bunch of people who weren't even metahumans going against a magical being with like crazy amounts of power. And I made the comment, and I'm bringing it up again now, that in the Suicide Squad, they're just fighting a kaiju. It's an alien. It's really scary and threatening to them. Like, it seems like it's out of their league, but it also seems like a situation where you think they do have a chance of pulling through because it is still just a giant monster. So it's like giving you that underdog angle that you really want in a situation like this. You don't want the challenge to be too easy, but you want it to be believable enough, too. Whereas Enchantress didn't feel believable at all to me. As a threat for the likes of Harley Quinn and Deadshot, this is absolutely something I could see them being thrown up against and having to struggle with, but something that they could overcome. And I do think the fight is cool. I'm really sad that Pokemon
Man?
That would be crazy. I'm really sad that Polka Dot Man is dead. I was really bummed leaving the theater that he didn't make it, but at least he died happy. I mean, he was hoping to die when they left, so yeah, good stuff. Harley and the spear, we get a payoff. We get another scene with Ratcatcher and her father, and we get a payoff there where all the rats swarm Starro and truly show off what the fuck they can do, which is really cool. Bloodsport blackmailing Waller is also great because they're still not heroes, right? They are better people. You can call them anti-heroes, but if he was a real hero, he would leak it to the press. I think he says it to either Harley or Ratcatcher. He's like, "Well, this is the best we can do. She still has the bombs in her necks. Like we can't win it. We can't win it all. Like, this is the best I can do," which is good. That was a good little bit there.
I liked that the final fight actually had them, like, I guess really fight and work together. Because in the first one, they, like, use a bomb to kill Incubus, and then I can't even remember how they defeat Enchantress, but I remember that, like, half the squad doesn't do anything. But I just remember that whole fight in the movie, like, half the squad didn't do anything. And here it actually feels like the whole squad is working together to bring down this big enemy.
My final note here, and it's kind of a long one, it's like 5 different bullet points, but it's all the same shit. I think the whole film is a really good parody and critique of American interventionism. One could compare the actions of the American government and the thinker to real-life stuff like Gitmo, Abu Ghraib, or everything we did in Iraq, really, and the countless fucked up instances of torture and experiments by the US government. I mean, American imperialism in South America? Who could ever imagine? And it's not just the story, either. It's like in the visual language of the movie, because we open it with that wide shot of a huge American flag with the squad in front of it. Starro itself represents America in my reading of the film. It's a conqueror who smashes through with no regard, killing people, spreading its stars, multiplying to large numbers, which I think mirrors like the 50 stars on that massive flag we saw at the beginning of the movie. And there's that little exchange between Starro and Ratcatcher where Starro says, "This city is mine," and Ratcatcher says, "This city isn't yours, and it isn't ours, it's theirs." And of course she's talking about her rats, but I think she's also referring to, whether it's subtext or not, the people of Carte Maltese who have been forced to deal with these fucking despots, both local and foreign, ruining their lives, you know?
I think the movie's about America being great.
I think the movie's about fighting a giant starfish.
I like the star comparison. As you were bringing it up, I was like, oh, I know what he's going to say. It's like the stars on the flag, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is refreshingly different. Like, I've never seen a superhero movie before this try and tackle themes like this. I mean, obviously, with the tone that this movie is going for and the premise of it, it's not going to be the most serious critique, but what's here is pretty good. I mean, it's a fucking cape shit movie. You can't expect it to do the heavy lifting.
Actually, there's no capes in the film.
Does Javelin have a cape?
No.
No? Okay, I take it back. It's a superhero movie, so you can't expect it to do, like, a lot of heavy lifting. It's just not the right medium for that. but it does also remind me of, Superman, and how that kind of eerily lines up with current events that happened after the movie was written. Whereas the same shit that is going on in Guatemala in the 50s is going on today in Venezuela. And it's like, the Suicide Squad's message is timeless, unfortunately.
You make a good point of it also being present in Superman, where definitely if you look further into it, you can see that there's more of a message. But even on the baseline, there's like, obviously here, he's basically saying that, like, yeah, they're doing fucked up stuff through Rick Flag, who is saying, yeah, like, the government's doing bad shit. So there's at least some of that in the script and through the dialogue. Which, I mean, even just saying that, like, the government's doing bad is more than some other movies do.
Oh, yeah. Try every Marvel movie. The only Marvel movie where the fucking government is the bad guy is, like, Winter Soldier.
And even then, it's, like, secret government.
Secret government Nazis or whatever. Yeah, they're not even the real government. And those movies are literally bought and paid for by the Department of Defense. They were showing fucking Air Force ads before Captain Marvel starring Brie Larson in the ads. It's not something you would see from the competitors. I'm honestly surprised that Warner Brothers let him do this. And I'm surprised they let him do it again with Superman, with what is, I think, a pretty clear allegory for Gaza, right?
Even if he says, because he said it, that's not what it is, it's pretty clearly that's what it's about, and he probably just doesn't want to step on any potential toes to ruin his job.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, it's pretty clearly at least inspired by it.
Absolutely. My only note about the plot is, do we think Waller had that lady killed for whacking her with the golf club?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to say that it takes some massive balls to knock her out, considering what she's not only done in the movie, but stated that she would do, like, yeah, I'll send your daughter to prison to basically get murdered.
Yeah, that lady has some fucking balls, and she's probably dead now. We don't see her in anything after this.
I want to say she was in Peacemaker.
No, there's no way.
I feel like I've seen her in something else.
I don't know how up-to-date this wiki is, but it says that, like, she shows up in Peacemaker in a flashback. Wait, it says that she's in the new Superman movie. What?
It does say that James Gunn said on the commentary track that he filmed a scene of her getting arrested and taken to prison, but cut it.
And in a mid-credit scene, it is revealed that Weasel, a member of the first team, has survived and runs off into the jungle. In a post-credit scene, Waller punishes two of her subordinates, Amelia Harcourt and John Economos, by assigning them to a new mission with Peacemaker, who is revealed to still be alive and miraculously recovering in a hospital.
I kind of forgot that this was where they were introduced.
Yeah, it kind of feels like they've been around longer, but that's just because they pop up over and over again. When I saw this, I couldn't believe that Peacemaker was alive. I think I had successfully avoided the news of the subsequent episode that we're going to cover next week. And I also didn't give a shit because he's like an asshole. He's a bad guy. I didn't really want to see an entire thing about him, you know? I didn't care if there was more Peacemaker or not. My feelings would change very quickly, but I don't know, did you feel that way?
I feel like it's hard to tell if, like, how, like, where the bullet went on his neck because he covers it. So it's hard to tell if it went, like, right through or if it just kind of nicked, like, the edge, which I feel like maybe is a bit more understandable if it just kind of like went on the edge. But
I'm not gonna say what I was thinking. I'm thinking of a certain
maybe if he said with or without gang violence, we would have been able to see where he got shot in the neck, but no, it could have just nicked it.
Yeah, I mean, for me it wasn't even the how, it was just like, I don't know if this guy needs his own thing, but I couldn't have been more wrong in that moment. Anyway, we move on to, did we think it worked? So, did this work as a sequel to David Ayer's Suicide Squad? I think so.
I feel like it's almost... It's hard to call it a sequel.
Yeah, it is like a kind of a soft reboot in a way, where like it is a sequel in the sense that you have like a lot of the main cast members, but you also have a completely new plot, a focus on completely new characters. If you're looking at the Suicide Squad as a team, I would argue it's a sequel. There is a consistency. They're not retconning it as if like the team never existed, or rather the first movie never existed. They don't make explicit references to it beyond the returning characters, but I think it works in a sequel sense.
You could totally watch this without watching the first one and it would make sense.
Yeah, and that was the next question I wrote here was, did it work as a soft reboot or fresh start for the team that new viewers could jump in from? And I think it could. Like, you could totally watch this without watching the first one. Hell, I did when I saw it in theaters. I would go so far to say that this is the best movie in the franchise. At least my favorite.
The Suicide Squad franchise?
I think, no. the DCEU. I think this is the best movie in the franchise. At least for me, this is my favorite. Like, I think everything here worked for me better than any other movie. Every part of it is excellent.
I never like to say if anything's like my favorite or anything, but it's definitely like top 3. I'm not gonna rank them right now off the top of my head, but like has a very strong story, awesome action, like cinematography. It has like all the hallmarks of a great movie, and it's just very fun to watch.
And it's got a great script, which is incredibly rare for one of these things. Yeah, no, it's good.
He's a great storyteller, for sure.
He really is. When I finished watching this movie in theaters, I leaned over to the person next to me. Not a stranger. I came with them. I
was just about to make a joke.
I wasn't gonna... No. But I leaned over to them and I said, like, why doesn't James Gunn just direct all of these things? Because before that point, when you're watching the DC stuff, it's kind of a train wreck. But then you see this, and it's like, you get a sense of hope. Like, with Gunn involved, it can kind of get back on track.
It's definitely above, like, far and beyond most of the movies that they've been putting out at this point for the past, like, good couple of years. And just the clear difference in quality definitely makes you stop and go, oh, wow, like, these could be so much better.
And I think part of it is that they really did give him carte blanche. Whereas with all the Snyder stuff and even the other movies before this, you had executives breathing down people's necks. But they were so adamant about pleasing Gunn and giving him whatever he wanted that, you know, they left him alone. So he got to make the movie he wanted to make. And by demonstrating that you trust your talent, good movies can come out of it. Like, that's why David Ayer's original Suicide Squad is a fucking mess. Because they didn't trust the guy they hired. They had second doubts, they made a half-hearted effort to flip it around into something that it wasn't, and it fucking stunk. Maybe the lesson to be learned here is that as a studio, you should have faith in the people you hire. And maybe vet the people you hire a bit better, too. But, you know, also, like, if you're gonna hire somebody, trust them to make the fucking movie you hired them to make. It's a shame that it took them 8 years to learn this fucking lesson.
You could even go so far as to apply that to Zack Snyder if they had just... Maybe they didn't have to make Zack Snyder's Justice League, or maybe if they made the original, but if they could have just compromised a little bit more, they wouldn't have had this shitty Joss Whedon version, and then maybe people wouldn't have given up on the DCEU so fast.
Yeah, the whole franchise wouldn't have fucking imploded only 4 years in if they had just worked with the creators a bit more. Absolutely.
So now we'll move on to the aftermath of release. So the Suicide Squad had a lot of positive reviews, receiving a 90% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes with an 82% audience score. The film has a Metacritic score of 72, and it had a cinema score of B+. And as we know, this film was released during COVID, with the film also releasing the same day on HBO Max, so the box office definitely took a bit of a hit. The reported budget for the film is $185 million, which is only $10 million more than the original film. And honestly, this is lower than I thought it was going to be in the 200s.
That is insane. How was the original film that expensive?
That's what I'm saying. Like, this one you can see where the money went, but in that one...
The CGI's dog shit. There's no crazy kaiju monster. There's no regular cast member that is fully CG. Maybe the actors' salaries. How fucking expensive was Will Smith and Jared Leto? I don't know. I other than that, I can't imagine what the cost would be.
I wonder if the original one factored in the reshoots too.
That's true, yeah, maybe.
On opening weekend, it netted $26.2 million domestically. And for the final totals, domestically it made $55.8 million, internationally $112.9 million, for a total of $168.7 million, which is only $0.3 million less than Wonder Woman, which released peak COVID, and the Suicide Squad is rated R. I think it's kind of crazy.
That is a good point, too. Like, this is rated R, and Wonder Woman wasn't, and it's pulling in a very similar amount of cash. This is, however, the third movie in a row to be at a loss. Birds of Prey lost money, 1984 lost money, and Suicide Squad 2 also lost money. And Zack Snyder's Justice League probably also lost money. So really, this is like 4 movies in a row.
At least 3 of them could be due to COVID, I guess, is the way that they're looking at it.
Yeah, that's true.
The film was made available for digital purchase on September 17th, 2021, after leaving the HBO Max same-day release window, and it was the top seller for home media sales in the US for 2 weeks after its release, It sold 146,752 Blu-ray and DVD units in the first week for a total of 3.8 million. And as of recording, it's made 15 million. So that almost makes up for the loss right there.
Yeah, $15.9 million. But that's nothing to sneeze at. It's like nearly $16 million.
Especially in a time where streamers dominate and a lot of people have the streaming services where this probably would be.
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't do the day and date thing with HBO Max, it's possible that a lot of people would have bought this on Blu-ray instead of just watching it at home on HBO. This is a quote that could have fit into last week's episode, but since it was already so fucking long, I just decided to slot it in here. Related to the pandemic, we have a quote from Jason Kilar, Warner Media's CEO at the time, who we introduced in the last episode about the pandemic. Quote, "It turns out that the pandemic and the way that we can help inform and contextualize the pandemic, it turns out it's really good for ratings. CNN is killing it." So he's very happy that the pandemic happened because it was good for business. More relevant in last week's episode, but...
Classic evil media man.
Yeah. And as far as effects on the franchise go moving forward, characters from The Suicide Squad would return in the animated series Creature Commandos, which was also written by James Gunn for the DCEU, although that's not where it would end up. Gunn also said that he was planning sequel films to The Suicide Squad, but would later move on to another DC project, and would eventually say that he had no plans for a sequel. Warner Brothers would eventually tap Gunn for something bigger, they just didn't know it yet.
I wish they'd make a sequel to this.
Me too.
Maybe after Man of Tomorrow? I don't know.
Yeah. If nothing else, put the characters back in. I'd love to see Ratcatcher and Bloodsport again. Or Harley. I can never get enough Harley, which sounds gross, but I don't mean it like that. I think he said in an interview that Bloodsport is the character he wants to bring in the most. So hurry up, James. What are you waiting for?
So, despite coming in at a loss for the studio, Warner Brothers was impressed with what James Gunn had done, and knew it was in their best interests to keep him on board for as long as they could. In an effort to do this, and to emulate Marvel Studios' latest business strategy, they would greenlight the franchise's first television series, Peacemaker. Thanks for listening. If you liked the episode, or hated it, let us know in the comments below. Additionally, feel free to rate the podcast 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening on. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye. They have chicken packets? What the hell? I'm reading the back of this thing and I'm learning a lot.
They have beef packets? I was trying to make a casserole the other night, and I found this recipe, and it's like, yeah, so you get your canned chicken.
Ooh, canned chicken.
It was literally just canned chicken, and then like vegetables, and you mix it in mayonnaise with noodles, and then put cheese on top. I'm like, that sounds fucking disgusting.
Yeah. Those are casseroles, baby.